This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas. Magazine publisher and entrepreneur Judith Mancini is sharing captivating conversations with experts in their field about the latest trends in our ever-changing world to help you become healthy, wealthy, and wise. Judith Mancini Today will spark your interest and inspire you to lead your best life ever. And now, here's Judith.
Judith Mancini Today is sponsored by Basic Brands, Inc., providing the highest quality specialty products in the natural food industry. Visit basicbrandsinc.com and enter JMT15 for your 15% discount on your first order, including their best-selling Vitamin E ointment, which helps restore moisture and elasticity to your skin. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. How has everybody been? There's been a lot of news lately. That's terrible tragedy. So let's jump right into in the news. And remember, it's just one woman's opinion. You do your research and form your opinion. And I hope you agree with me. Well, it is just a terrible tragedy in Turkey and Syria. I've never seen such devastation for an earthquake before. A few years ago, there was a terrible, terrible one in Mexico, and the buildings fell down and there were many, many people killed. But when you see the pictures of Turkey and how they're trying to pull people out from the rubble, it's devastating. These buildings are dust, as if a bomb had been dropped on them. They're not even big blocks that they can pick up, just dust. It's terrible. I saw a little boy pulled out and a little girl pulled out, and I was crying because I was so happy they were saved, but they're all alone in the world. So let's say prayers for these people. It's devastating. Our emergency team, we have two of them that go over immediately or as fast as they can to devastated areas like this. One is based here in Los Angeles. So I was watching that on the news the other day, and they were loading pallets and pallets of supplies, food and first aids and operating things. They have doctors and nurses go with them, but they have a lot of demolition guys or rescue people that go through the terrible devastation of the buildings. And once in a while, we lose one of them trying to save another's life. So we want to keep them in our prayers too. They've taken two sets of dogs with them. One is for cadavers, trying to find who is not alive. And then they go in first, and then they send the other dogs in to try to rescue people because they want to try to eliminate the space where they don't think anybody is living, so they don't waste their time. That sounds cruel, but in reality, it's not, because they want to use the other dogs who are looking for buried bodies that are still alive, and they can get out. And that's how they found these little children. So let's keep them in our prayers and the people over there. It's too much devastation in these different areas. This looked worse than some of the places in Ukraine that have been bombed. So that's kind of a mess. Everybody has their different opinion on Ukraine. I would like to see the people remain free. I don't want a war. And I'm becoming very jumpy, very kind of yelling at the television. I don't have anybody else to yell at. I'm not going to yell at my husband. But I hear these stupid things, and the common citizen can figure out what is going on. Now, if I had been in the government, I think I would have told people, such as former President Trump and his staff, the Pentagon people, I would have shared that there were balloons flying over different parts of the world and the United States, one right off of Florida, some in Hawaii, right off the coast of Hawaii, some in Florida, all over. And this latest one is so big that it must have a lot of secret equipment on it that can spy on us. It's definitely not a weather balloon. And anyway, a weather balloon should not be flying over our country anywhere low enough so that it can be seen with the naked eye. I'm sure they were spying, and I think the administration has come to the conclusion it is, and probably they knew before they ever even told us. They couldn't keep it hidden this time because it could be seen by the naked eye. And it flew over our most sensitive weapons, our nuclear stash silos all over Montana. It's just horrific. You start to think perhaps some people may want to make a name for themselves because they're not going to be going down as the number one greatest president. They may be going down as the president who has failed the most and take the place of Jimmy Carter. I don't know. It's your bet against my bet. But it's clear after the State of the Union that President Biden is definitely not in control of what he's saying. And he fumbled. I fumble too. Everybody fumbles sometimes if they're live on air. But this is getting to be crazy. The speech spent more time on telling you that you can now look and feel better because you're not going to get any resort fees on your credit card when you go on vacation. What? Is that keeping us safe? This is absurd. One thing flashed on the news before the speech was put up, before they were going live to the speech, that he was going to go after smokers. At least somebody had the brains to not do that. He only spent a few minutes on China. I can't believe it. I don't feel any better. I don't feel any safer. And I have seen some planes, whenever we get these things, like right after 9/11 and all, off the coast of California, we have fighters that fly down, and sometimes they fly lower than other times. And you can hear them, and I've been hearing that recently down here in Southern California. It's not a good thing. I don't want anybody to make a name for themselves as getting us into another war. It's not going to make him go down in history as a good president. He's really failing, and I think it is very cruel to him, and it's definitely cruel to the United States to keep somebody in that is definitely suffering from cognitive disabilities like dementia. It's not just his age. People are living to a longer age, and many of them, I have friends in their 90s that their cognitive abilities are perfectly fine, and they're healthy, and they're active. This man, I don't think, does anything when he goes to one of his two beach houses. I don't know what he does. Sometimes you see a picture for the press with he's walking down the beach with Jill, but that's about it. So I don't know how he says he's always working when he's not in the White House, because I don't believe it. And this problem with papers disappearing is terrible. Everybody was after Trump because he had some, and they were locked up in the house. And the house was raided. And to go through his wife's and his son's closets is disgusting to me. What were they doing? Pulling her panties out and looking to see which brand she bought? How disgusting is this to do this to a former president? But you notice they haven't done it to a sitting president like that. And there are papers that have been found. I don't care how old they are. There's a problem going on with Hunter Biden and the money that has been laundered and that he's gotten by being the son of a sitting senator, sitting vice president, and sitting president. You can't convince me otherwise. Otherwise, why would he be on planes to China with his father? He has no business in the administration. He's been sightseeing before. I'd like to know who goes on all these different trips that the politicians take. Well, that's it for me talking about that. But, you know, there are several cases going on with terrible murders and the miscarry of justice in some of them. They've just now found a teacher that disappeared. And of course, she was found murdered. I don't know what to even say about this, except for the fact if you outlaw guns, only outlaws have guns. Do you think any of these people that are shooting people and doing these horrible things have registered their guns or bought them at a gun show or a gun shop? Of course not. They're untraceable guns that have been stolen from people. Sawed off the serial number. We're in trouble, people. So what I want you to do is make up your own mind. Don't be silent. Stand up, speak out, and study the news. And be sure you look at both sides of the argument. Don't just watch one news channel. Watch several, and watch some of them that are unbiased as can be. Now, I feel like I'm kind of in a sci-fi movie, and maybe you do too. Maybe you feel like you've gone back in time to 1984, the George Orwell book that he wrote about artificial intelligence. Do you happen to know that when you have one of those little Amazon dot thingies, that they track your data on that, what you're buying, what you're listening to, and more than that, several news sites have sworn that they have had people tell them they're tracking their own data and storing it, and who knows who they're giving it to. Of course, Amazon uses it to promote their sales and put them on the internet. So that's not a good thing. And also the Ring doorbells that everybody is getting with the camera, those are also tracking devices. I have this from very good sources that this is happening. But I want to tell you that when we came back from Mexico, instead of looking at our paper passports, they did facial recognition. And it was me. And yes, I was who I said I was. But I'm not crazy about this. And they do want to use my face to see if it's linked to any criminals in the background, if they have somebody. Now, I'm using me as an example. I don't have any criminals in my family that I know of. Sometimes people get surprised and figured out when they came across the country, they might have been horse thieves or something, but no, I'm clean. But I'm not crazy about the stoplights and the cameras at four-way intersections in big cities. They have helped solve some crimes, and so that's a good thing. But where else are they putting them? Sometimes they're putting them in residential areas now. I don't know. Let us know your thoughts. Okay, I want to warn you about a couple of scams that are going on. I've been hacked before, I've told you that. It was a pain in the neck getting it all straightened out and getting checks deposited directly again and by the, electronically. Had to change all that, had to change credit card numbers, get new cards. Oh, what a mess it was. But there's one of the biggest scams that two of my friends were victims of was the one where somebody purporting to be or posing as your grandson or your granddaughter, and they're off traveling, and they've been in Europe or they've been in Mexico or Indonesia, someplace, and they had all their money stolen. So please, I want to come home. I can't get home unless you wire me some money right away. Wire me $5,000 because it's going to be expensive to get an airplane and I still have to pay the place I'm staying overnight. Please do it. I've had two of my friends each wire over $5,000 to these people. And of course, it was a big scam. Now, sometimes grandparents' love extends to their grandchildren, and they think they're protecting their grandchild by not getting the parent involved and seeing if the child is really on a trip even. You know, kids go through funny times in their lives, and sometimes they have a better relationship with grandparents or a best friend of their mother's or something like that. Don't just wire off money. It's not going to hurt your grandson or your granddaughter or whatever it is, a niece or a nephew, or even somebody's other parents' kids. It's not going to hurt to verify that this is real. Verify it with the kids, however you communicate with them. But do not wire money off because it is one of the biggest scams going around. Now, there's always scams around tax time when the IRS is asking you, oh, we've misplaced the last numbers on your Social Security card. They don't do that. So don't fall for these scams. There's a scam going around right now that is a message supposedly from a government organization, and it has to do with COVID, apparently. I've read about this. It says something about this is from their main tracking, and if you don't respond in 48 hours, your government account is going to be shut down. Now, I'm not sure about all this, but this has been sent to me to warn people about. And I looked at it, somebody forwarded it to me. I looked at it and it says it's based in Ireland. Well, I'm not aware that our government does Social Security or unemployment or COVID relief, any of that in Ireland. Plus, the last time I checked, Ireland was spelled Ireland. Now, if you look at these things, you can notice that sometimes letters, the alphabet, is printed in one type of script and the other font, I should say, and somewhere else in the body of it, it will be printed in a different font. Well, that's one clue that it's fake. And then Ireland, in this particular post that was forwarded to me, said Ireland was spelled with an E on the end of it. That's another clue. Probably I shouldn't have told them to forward it to me, but as I recall, I don't think it was actually forwarded. They took a picture of it and sent it to me. But who knows? I don't know how they break into your accounts or anything. So there is ransomware out there, ransom people who are trying to lock things up and get you to pay to open your account again too. Just check your accounts. You're probably not blocked. It's crazy out there. Crime, crime, and crime. The other day on Facebook, I posted something about your cars and what you shouldn't post on your cars, that you're members of soccer teams in the private school your kids go to, or even the public school that your kids go to. Don't be putting all these things on. And if you're a fisherman or a hunter, don't put those stickers on your car anymore because they know you go out on trips and your family may be left alone. So Here, my wonderful engineer has told me as long as you don't download any files, now that's download is the key here, any files from the email or click on any links, you should be good. Let me just say that to you one more time, and thank you so much, Jose, for putting that up there for me. As long as you don't download any files from the email or click on any links, you should be good. So yay, I'm good for that one, because I sure don't want to get hacked again, and neither do you. All right, well, that's my advice to you today and my news, and I want you to verify everything. All right, let's jump into how we're changing our lives for our golden years. Attitude of gratitude sounds funny and everybody uses it, but I will tell you, before I jump out of bed in the morning, I say my prayers. And some people think I should be down on my knees by the side of the bed, but God listens no matter where you are. So I pray before I get out of bed in the morning. And in the morning, I don't ask God for anything except to bless my family and my friends. But the first thing I do is thank you for a good night's sleep and thank you for another day. Because even with the sadness in the world and the things that are troubling you, I'm grateful for another day that I can spend with friends and family and in this great country of ours. And I can guarantee you, if you start your day with gratitude, it will make your life a lot easier. Now, some people have a gratitude journal, and they journal for 30 minutes or 15 minutes or something, and they make pages and pages of what you're grateful for. And there's another way that people do this gratitude for attitude, or attitude for gratitude. They get a big jar and they put on little tiny pieces of paper all the different things that they're grateful for that day. It could be that the sun is shining, that the kids are on time for school, that the husband has a wonderful job, that you have a position in your career, or you're lucky enough to stay home for a little bit with your kids and then go into the office. Or maybe you're grateful because you get to work at home now, so you do have more time with your children. Maybe you're an empty nester and you're grateful for that, even though you're still close to your family and you just have a little time for you and your husband, or you yourself if you're a single parent. So there's always something to be grateful for. I used to like to take walks when there were lots of flowers around. Early in the morning, I would do my walks and I'd stop and watch the sunrise, and I'd see these beautiful blooming flowers in the springtime. And I get such joy out of seeing my two littlest grandchildren, 8 and 4, as they take walks with their mom and me, and they stop and literally smell the roses. They stop and they pick the little flowers, and they learn about dandelions and how good they are for the people and the bees. They learn the names of the different plants. It's joyous. Do those simple things. It will make your life so much better. Okay, so here we are. And then I get on with my day and it gets pretty busy, and I'm grateful for that too. Here we are. We're talking about today how the golden years, we want to face the golden years without golden fears of poor health. But there are some things in aging that are normal, and there's some things that aren't so normal and need to be looked at by your physician or healthcare practitioner. So these are not meant to be prescriptions for all of you to do. You get checked out by your physician or your healthcare practitioner. Okay, so I woke up, and maybe I said this the other day, I woke up with pains in my hands, and I thought, oh, well, they've been aching lately because I use the computer so much, and my wrist doesn't hurt, so I don't have any kind of problem there. It's my hands. And I'm at a certain age where a lot of my friends are having experiencing arthritis. So I thought, oh, well, here I am. I've been using them, and maybe I haven't been using them correctly or not exercising them enough or something. And I woke up with this crazy thing. Excuse me 1 minute. I want to show you my exercise. So one thing is, I woke up and it wasn't all my fingers, but this one was bent like this. Can you see that? It was bent in 3 places. Oh, I'm touching the wrong finger. No, I'm touching the right finger. So it was bent in a funny way, and I had a hard time straightening it out. And I've been doing these exercises at night because of my hands, where I bend the first knuckle, and then I bend the second one, and then I bend the third. So I go like this. But this trigger finger on my left hand, where am I? On my left hand, wouldn't straighten out. Well, I asked my doctor about it when I went in to have a blood test, my regular annual one. And she said, it's a trigger finger. And I'd never heard of it before. So what it is your ligament that goes down your hand. And it's not getting enough exercise and not getting enough fluid to it to keep it supple. So long ago at a big meeting in the healthcare industry, I picked up this little ball that is given to people who need to do exercise. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. There's lots of different things for your hands that you can use. There's metal ones that squeeze together. This one is just soft and you squeeze it. And I've been doing that regularly every night, especially on this hand. I'm having a problem with my camera today staying in frame. So that one is doing it. But then my doctor, after the blood test, said, oh, I have these cute little things that will help you too, because your fingers go in each space. Can you see that? Whoops. Can you see that? Oh, Jose, you need to give me a lesson on how to use my lens. So I've been doing that, and it has helped, and my finger is not triggering as much as it was. But if you're really getting real arthritis, it can be very painful, and you can take some over-the-counter things in a while, but arthritis really it responds well to movement. Now, we're not talking about the most severe cases of arthritis. We're just talking about little ones. And the doctor can tell you how much exercise you can do and all that. And if it progresses really horribly, there are medications you can take for it. But try in some cases after you're diagnosed, or even if you're not, maybe you need to rest your fingers like me. Okay? So that's one thing. And now going along with arthritis and some things that happen, you get these brown spots on your hands. I get them all over. See this one? This little thing. Sunbathing like that with the back of my head, I guess. I don't know. I have them all over. I get them on my face, and sometimes I get them burned off because they could be precancerous, and that seems to help to make sure that it's not going into cancer. So some of them could be bad. Now, if you have suddenly something on your face that has changed, and you know the signs of the ones that they turn black and they're not absolutely circular and they're asymmetrical, you need to get to your dermatologist, your doctor, right away, and let's get it off. Let's have it sent to the lab and make sure it's not. There are 3 types of skin cancer. Basal cell, I've forgotten them all. Melanoma is by far the worst, and there's different stages of that too. So get those taken care of right away. People that are older often get bruises. Now, I've gotten bruises all my life. And I don't know if it's genetic or not. I don't remember anybody in my family ever getting them. But even if I hit my hip or my leg or something on the edge of a chair or something, I get a terrible bruise. Well, you can take some homeopathic things, herbs and all, for that. And sometimes bruises last for a long time, but if you're having them that they're not going away ever after you've injured yourself, like me running into the edge of a table or a chair, you need to go out and have your doctor look at it. There are some things that you can get over the counter that help alleviate the bruising, and there's also Ayurvedic medicine that you can get to help with the bruising. So try those first. Make sure it's just a little bruise someplace. And if you have any more problems, see your doctor. Next, let's talk about your movement. Achy joints. If you have achy joints, that kind of goes into arthritis too, but achy joints can be from anything. I know if we sit on our sofa, which kind of tilts back a little bit. It doesn't actually tilt, but not every chair is a straight back chair. I will start getting stiffness in the lower back. I've never had back problems. I don't have headaches. I'm very, very fortunate. But if you get that, you can alleviate these things by getting up at least once an hour. Don't sit there. So many people now are used to sitting around for hours watching television or streaming or playing video games, even kids. They're not getting enough exercise, which exercise does keep you young, and it keeps these joints mobile, and it keeps you from getting pains in your lower back and pains in your hips and your knees. I'm not suggesting you go out and run a marathon without training. And I'm not suggesting that you just go walk up and down your stairs in your house 100 times. First of all, as we get older, we sometimes miss a step or we get unbalanced. So I'm not in favor, once you reach a certain age, to be running up and down stairs. You must be careful. And if you're running outside and you're running on sidewalks, and I'll watch out for those curbs. It could be scary falling down. I had a friend who fell down because his dog saw a squirrel and went running off over it. And of course, he had the dog on a leash and he fell down and he broke his thumb. Thank God that was all he broke. But this is what happens to older people. But you do need to do something else when you get these achy joints. First of all, be sure, like I told you last week or the week before, to massage your vagus nerve and make sure your circulation is going good. Remember, if you sit too long, you're going to get edema. You're going to get fluid in your feet settling down in your ankles. And you don't want a bunch of fluid in your body because it could surround your heart and it could cause a heart attack. So that's another reason you need to get up and move your joints and your legs and your arms, every joint in your body. Stretch out, even if you're only doing simple stretches above your head and out and around and circling. Okay, you know how to do it. I don't need to show you on this tiny screen. So do that. And the other thing I want you to do, if your feet are bothering you and your legs are bothering you, sit on your bed or sit on the floor is best because it's a hard surface. Even if you're sitting on the sofa, you can do this. Rotate your ankles, go up and down on your feet, but also give yourself a mini massage. Rub those feet. Rub it all over your toes. Pull your toes a little bit. Rub the arches, the ball of your foot, your ankle, your ankle where it's supposed to indent in the back by your heel. Rub those and rub your legs, rub your calves, rub your thighs. Most importantly, rub your feet and your calves, and always go up towards the heart, so you're not bringing fluid and blood away from your heart constantly. So bring it up to yourself, to your heart. All right, that should help you. It should help you go to sleep at night too, give yourself a little massage to go to sleep. Dry skin is a real problem. If you go out and have a pedicure and they're fixing your feet and your heels and all from wearing flip-flops in the house or shoes without your socks, your feet get a little sweaty, especially with these rubber flip-flops. They drain the moisture out of your foot because they're rubber and plastic and all other kinds of silly things in it. So you need to take that dry skin off. It's unsightly for one thing. And secondly, it's not good for your health. So try to remember to put some kind of lotion on that's a healing lotion. Don't put Vaseline on it. Some people say if you put Vaseline on it in your socks and leave it overnight in bed, that it will help heal it, but it really won't. It's just kind of making it smooth on the top. You want to get that dead skin off, and that will make you feel better too. It happens on your elbows, your knees, and your hands the most. But also, I'm not talking about skincare today, but it also happens on your face. So try to remember to do that. Well, I just talked to you about climbing stairs. Now, I was at a friend's the other day at a lovely, lovely luncheon for a bunch of us who've been friends for 30 years and more. And she's just redesigned her front. And the only thing she's missing is a railing. And I tell her that all the time. But she broadened the steps. So many of the old homes have steps that are 12 inches wide. That's a foot. Some of them are even shorter. But you must be very careful on them. Even if you're taking a walk in the city and the buildings have steps up to them, a lot of courthouses do, and old-fashioned buildings, and most of the new buildings have elevators where you go in on the ground floor and they have elevators and all. But even 2 little steps up or a curb could hurt you. What you should do on the stairs is walk a little sideways so your foot fits across the stair instead of running up like Rocky on the balls of your feet. Falling is not pleasant, and if you hit your head, you could be in real trouble. So take precautions on that. Let's talk one more time about your hands and your strength in your hands. These little gadgets I showed you before are good for hand strength. You also got the 2-pronged hand grip that tightens and firms your grip. Try not to use these gadgets that help you open a jar of peanut butter or honey or whatever you're trying to open, because if you can't open it, you've lost strength in your fingers and your hands, and you can no longer grip. That's why I want you to be sure to exercise your hands. All right? Okay, now we're going to talk about, check the time here. We're going to talk about vision issues in just a few minutes, but what I want to tell you are the most common chronic conditions in older adults. And this is from the National Council on Aging. So the first thing that takes people are healthy. Oh, I don't know what they're talking about here. Excuse me. You should do these things to help yourself. Stay healthy. But some of these things are the most common things that hurt people. What do I want to say? The most common chronic conditions, the 3 C's, chronic conditions, common chronic conditions. One of them is exercising because of your joints and all. So I pretty much covered that before. So we're going to skip over to high cholesterol. Now, high cholesterol comes from a variety of things. It can come from stress even. It can come from an improper diet, which we all know about. And it can come from things like being obese or not being active enough, eating too many saturated fats and processed foods. And if you have an excessive smoking habit or alcohol consumption can also trigger high cholesterol. Cholesterol numbers are different for all people. You need to look at your total cholesterols, but you also need to look at the ratio between the HDL and the LDL. That's going to be a whole nother subject, so I don't want to run out of time here. So that is one of the chronic things people say, and you know I'm against statins. Red yeast rice with CoQ10 on the side make a great preventative supplement for you. Now, you need to regulate your stress level. It might help to sit down. This can help with your blood pressure too. Sit down, relax, massage that vagus nerve going up, but take a deep breath and hold it and let it out. Calm yourself down. That's going to help you with your cholesterol. It's going to help you with your stress. And it's going to make you chill out during the day. So you won't be snapping at everybody if you're still being locked down from COVID or something. We know we're not supposed to be anymore. But some people have gotten in the habit of doing that. So you want to be able to go outside. Exercise will help that, as I said. And you want to limit your salt. Your salt, too much salt. I cook with a tiny bit of salt, but we never add extra salt to our diet. Once in a while, we get cravings for something salty, which I think everybody does. We get cravings for sweets, and if we ate a totally balanced diet, we wouldn't get those. But you have to have a little fun in your life as you get older. And one of ours is eating really wonderful food at restaurants. We love to do that. But you don't need to necessarily add salt and pepper before you even taste your food. It's a habit that people have gotten into for years when they made salt more available to people instead of the big chunks where you had to hammer it to get it off. So we want to deal with different things with these chronic conditions, and we want to deal with fatigue, and pain, and frustration, and isolation. And isolation seems to be spurring a lot of these chronic conditions. So we want you to get out and make friends, and I've in different episodes suggested different ways to do that. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but you should be always communicating with your health professionals if you have a problem. So we will do one on healthy eating at some time, but here are a couple other things that crop up when you've reached that magic mid-century number 50 and looking at the golden years, and you want to have a healthy life. Look at heart disease. I recommend that your regular family physician or your primary physician give you a baseline EKG, electrocardiogram, to see how your heart is. If you've never had one and you don't know if you have heart disease, You shouldn't have it if you've been eating healthy and doing everything right, but sometimes it's genetic and you may not even know it. So I always tell people, when you go to your primary physician for your annual health thing, have him do a baseline on you, a baseline cardiogram, and just make sure that ticker is working properly. If not, get yourself, have him refer you to a great cardiologist, and let's see what's going on with you, because if you have to have anything wrong with you, God forbid you get cancer, because they still haven't found a cure for that. And I'm so sorry. I lose friends all the time to cancer, and it's a horrible, horrible thing. And I really wish they'd concentrate on finding some kind of cure for it. They do have many treatments for it, but nothing like the heart. The heart they have concentrated on for years, and I'm happy to say it's the easiest thing to deal with most of the time these days. They've done heart transplants, liver transplants. You want to keep doing your cardio exercises and all to keep your heart healthy if your heart is healthy. So once your doctor tells you you're absolutely healthy, get out there and walk. You don't need to run marathons. Just do some healthy walking and try to walk for at least a half an hour today, 10,000 steps minimum. You can count up the steps you're doing in the house, but it really helps you to do them all at one time and get your heart beating a little harder and your lungs expanding with the fresh air in it. So, you know what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to get 6 to 8 hours of sleep a night. That's a whole nother problem as we grow older. You're not supposed to smoke. You're not supposed to drink to excess. And God forbid you're doing drugs. You're not a teenager experimenting, and they shouldn't be experimenting either. So live a healthy life and you'll be happier. Sometimes diabetes pops up, and type 2 diabetes can pop up from your diet, and you can correct that by taking some herbs and some supplements. I like sugar. I'm addicted to sugar. I try all the time, but at least I've gotten it down to things like dark chocolate, and I don't eat tons of it a day. But I watch my blood sugar level and my cholesterol and all of that for my yearly physicals. I'm taking chromium picolinate because my blood sugar level was a little elevated. It's well beyond what they recommend. So I'm not saying I'm sick or diabetic, but it could sneak up on you very fast if you're not watching your diet when you get to be 50 and above. So watch that and talk to your doctor, see if you can't change your diet and work with that. Type 1 diabetes is what you could be born with or develop it a little earlier. Early detection, there's different signs of having diabetes, and it could affect your kidneys and everything else. So you want to watch for those signs. Problem with your urination, problem with passing out, dropping over and not realizing it, being lightheaded, just not feeling good overall. So get to a physician, get to a healthcare professional, and have that checked out. So I'm almost done with this, and we're not even going to have time to talk about the other two things I want to talk about today, but be sure you talk to your doctor. Now, older people are more inclined to have heart failure, except now that these VACs have come into being, and people in their late teens all the way up into their 40s are dropping dead for no apparent reason. So it's not a good thing. And a lot of older people have never gone to the doctor and don't know the signs of having immediate heart failure. Don't forget, for a man, they're different than for a woman. A man could have shortness of breath. He could have his left arm becoming so painful he can't move it. He could have his jaw, he could be slurring his speech, pains in his chest. But a woman can have different ones. She could have pains in the jaw. She could have some problems with her hands, that the blood is not flowing well enough to them, to the extremities. She could have some heart palpitations, but she could also get terrible pain between her shoulder blades and her back. And many women think that's just from stress. But if you're having that, you need to get to your primary care person immediately. Depression is also one of the signs for both male and female, and so is fatigue, wanting to sleep more if you're not sleeping well and not sleeping at all and only sleeping a couple hours in a 24-hour period. So manage your stress levels, manage that depression, get to somebody who can talk to you about depression. Now, if you're even staying in the house, there are many therapists that are online. They even have different sites that you can go to get help. And they're qualified, they have credentials, and that can help you. The other thing is chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, otherwise known on television as COPD, where they tell you to use this medication and that medication. I'm not a big fan of prescription drugs. As I've said before, I am in favor of vaccinations. My mother was a polio patient, totally paralyzed and on a respirator for the rest of her life from the time I was 5 years old until she died fairly early when I was pregnant with my son. So I do believe in things like that. Polio was eradicated, smallpox was eradicated, measles, mumps, and rubella. Those things are good. There's other vaccinations you need to take for malaria and things like that if you're traveling. I'm just not in favor of these mRNA vaccines that apparently don't even protect you from COVID. And every time we're going to have a new one, they have to give you another one. And there goes the pharmaceuticals just making a lot of money, and our kids are dropping dead on the basketball court for no reason. Well, we also get Alzheimer's and dementia, and that is something you have to look out for, and you will start to know those signs too. One of the best things you can do if you're having memory problems, don't immediately think you're getting dementia, because you probably aren't. That's just our brain being overloaded. Think of your brain as a computer disk or a file cabinet, and you've been learning all these things all your life from the time you were a tiny child, and it's getting full, and so you need to put some of them in the back. You're not using them as much. Like, please don't ask me to do an algebra problem. I'll never remember. So what you need to do is concentrate on the things that are affecting you now. Remember those people's names, remember where they live, remember your grocery list. There's nothing wrong with making a grocery list in writing. But if you're having severe problems and your family thinks that you are starting to get dementia, you need to go to a doctor. And the same with Alzheimer's. People's moods change and they act differently than when they don't have either one of those conditions. So that's about it for me today. Thank you for sticking with me. Remember to always be grateful for the life that you are living and strive to make everyone around you happy. Smile and tell somebody they look fabulous today. And remember, cherish yesterday, dream tomorrow, and live today. Thanks for tuning in.